Well, hello and welcome to Sacramento State, the Counselor Education Symposium. Today and tomorrow is our conference, and we are going to start first by just acknowledging where we're at today. So the land acknowledgement, we're mindful and acknowledging that the land that Sacramento State is located on was and continues to be occupied by the indigenous people of this area, the Miwok, Maidu, and Nisenan. Recognizing their culture, that this is rich with spiritual ties to the land and waters that resonate with their traditions, we are humbled and take this opportunity to thank and honor those indigenous people of this area, and ask that you consider your ancestors and your relationship to the land that you are on. I want to start by really we're so thrilled that you're here to engage in this exciting webinar with our keynote speaker, Ms. Alma Lopez. I am Dr. Michael Zhang. My pronouns are she and her. I am an assistant professor in the counseling education program in the school counseling specialization here at Sac State. So before we begin, and before I introduce Ms. Alma Lopez, the chat function is available for comments and questions. Question and answer will occur during the last 15-20 minutes of the webinar, and the presenter will answer questions at the end of the webinar. So with that, it was with great pleasure that I introduce you to today's keynote speaker, Alma Lopez. Alma is the 2022 National School Counselor of the Year. She is the first Latina to be recognized for this honor. In 2021, Alma was named the California School Counselor of the Year. Alma Lopez has served as a school counselor for 15 years. She is the lead counselor at Livingston Middle School, which is one of the 38 schools in the state of California that is a recognized ASA National Model program, or RAM. She also serves as the school counseling coordinator for Livingston Unified School District. A graduate of California State Fresno, Alma embodies the full spirit of school counseling. She serves as a RAMP reviewer and is a board member for the California Association of School Counselors. In 2018, Alma received the City of Livingston's You Make Us Proud Award. Colleagues refer to her as a positive, humble, and strong advocate for school counseling programs who keeps the students with the most needs on the top of her mind, ensuring that they have access to the resources needed to support their success. Thank you for joining us today, Alma. Please take it away.
There we are. Good afternoon, everyone. I am super excited to be here with you guys. Definitely appreciate this opportunity. The Central Valley is home to me, and while I am a Fresno State alumna, I also am very much a part of the Sacramento community and the San Joaquin Valley as a whole. And so I'm very excited to be here and share some of my journey with you. And I was super grateful, Dr. Zhang, for that great welcome, and especially to just kind of hear out loud in California that we have 38 RAMP schools. Just 5 years ago, when my colleague and I ramped here in the Central Valley, there were actually only 7 schools that had earned RAMP at that time. And we were the only California school in 2018 to earn RAMP. And so it was pretty impressive. And right now, just kind of hearing out loud that there's 38 definitely warms my heart and makes me feel really pretty proud of having contributed to that journey. So we are going to begin. I'm going to share my screen and definitely want to try and make this as interactive as we can. So there will be opportunities just to share in the chat as mentioned, and definitely invite you to do that. So let me make sure I can give you my entire screen. There we go. So a little bit about my journey. This just happened. I cannot believe it. And so as you learn a little bit about myself and my journey, you're also going to learn that having had this recognition both at the state level and on the national level has definitely warmed my heart and kind of propelled me into this space that I never thought as a very shy Latina I would be doing. And so I definitely want to just encourage everyone to know that you too can have this opportunity. And so a little bit about myself. You will see a picture of me here at 6th grade camp. Our students, unfortunately, did not have that opportunity the last couple of years, but I know that more and more schools are beginning to bring back 6th grade camp. And so you can see here was awkward me with my camp counselor, and that was in 6th grade. I am a product of both the public school system and the private school system. So I attended St. Anthony's School in Manteca for middle school. But prior to that, I attended Lathrop Elementary School. And then you'll see this picture, the large picture in the middle. There I am on my graduation day. And I know it's a little blurry because it was, not today's camera phones that we can use, but it was definitely an amazing experience to graduate from St. Anthony's. And the reason I'm so proud of this photo is because I realized something just about a month ago. I actually had an opportunity to present at our high school for College and Career Day, and something really cool happened. I took some photos to share with the students my journey. And while I was looking at this picture, I realized that here in the background, you can actually see my grandfather and my father. And then kind of on the other side of this photo, you see my grandmother. And so as I've been journeying through education, I've learned so much about myself, and my story, as I share with you, was really by accident and by happenstance. And I thought, we could do better and we should do better. Our students demand that. And so when I saw this photo, I thought, oh my gosh, even though I did not know in this photo that I would be a graduate from high school and later from college, what I did know was that here are my grandparents. They, on some level, had that dream and that goal for me, and how incredible that is. Then you'll see on the left side, again, I thought I was pretty cool with a perm in the 90s. And so I graduated from Manteca High School. And then to the left, you'll see that I graduated from Fresno State. I graduated there with my BA in psychology and a minor in speech communications, which I still cannot believe. I hated every day of that class. It was really difficult, but I knew that I wanted to be able to work with young people and to converse with them as a counselor. And so I knew that there was a lot that I needed to do to better myself. And so I signed up for every class in speech, and it was really, really hard for me, every class. But I also knew I was paying for tuition. And so I was not going to allow myself to fail that class. And so I would do these speeches and it would be really hard. And I would think, I'm not going to go to class and I'm going to probably throw up and I'm probably going to, just really mess up. And somehow I got through it. And then I challenged myself to also speak at my church and give back to my community. So when I returned to the area, I signed up to be a lector at my church in front of thousands of people, which once again was incredibly hard and is still hard for me. But I knew that I wanted to be able to give back to the community who gave to me so much. So that's just a little bit about who I am. Let me move this along. So here is a little bit about me that I want to let you know kind of my why, and I alluded to it earlier. My why is because my story was by happenstance, and that is not okay. It is absolutely not okay. And it's not okay because, just like President John F. Kennedy says here, it just takes one person that can make a difference for someone else. And we should all try every day. And as school counselors and educators, we really have that unique opportunity and truly that responsibility to make a difference in a young person's life. And so you'll see a picture of the Fresno State t-shirt. And that's kind of how my journey began. It was not until I was in high school where I saw a classmate with a Fresno State shirt on. And I asked him about it. I said, hey, what's Fresno State? I really did. I had no idea. And he said, oh, it's college. And my brother goes there. And I thought, oh, okay. What's this college? And I wonder if I could go there, because I'm going to be 18 and I want to go somewhere, right? I want to be independent. I want to do something. But I really did not know much more about the process to get into college. I was an average student. And so what that meant for me was that my school counselor, who was incredibly nice, and I saw her at school assemblies and activities and rallies, she never called me in. And I think it was because her ratios were high. And I think it's because she focused on those students who were high achieving and needed scholarships to help pay for college. I remember that. And then I imagine she focused on those students who were really struggling and needed that additional support, because I know I do that too. And there was some of us in the middle. And I was like, hey, a C's okay. Not understanding anything about what it was going to take to get into college at that time. And so I think back, I had this t-shirt that I saw, and that's really what sparked my interest. And it worked out for me. I showed you my photo. I graduated. It was such an awesome moment. I have a job that I love each and every day. And so I'm extremely grateful. But it was by happenstance. It was by accident. And that should not be what happens moving forward, right? I'm a believer that once you know better, it's our obligation to do better. And so I hope you'll hear some of that in what we share today. Oops. Okay, quick activity as we get started that I wanted to share. I learned this from my friends at Pennsylvania. They invited me to learn a little bit alongside of them. And so I just want to pause and give us all an opportunity to share. You're welcome to show your screen so we could see you just for a few minutes. I promise it's pretty easy activity, but it'll help us just kind of be able to connect a little bit. So I appreciate that as you're able to do so. So this is an activity that is called Never Have I Ever, and maybe you've heard of it and maybe you've played before. So I'm going to invite you to just raise one finger if the statement that I asked you is true, okay? So never have I ever stayed late at work. Never have I ever. So if that's true, one finger, thank you. Second one, never have I ever missed lunch in order to talk to one of my students or parents or teachers. All right, you see, we're already 2 up, right? Never have I ever double scheduled a meeting. Never have I ever double scheduled a meeting. I know we have. Never have I ever worn 2 different socks or shoes to work. Yeah. Some of us have done that. Never have I ever cried about one of my students' situations. Yeah, we take that stuff with us, right? It's heavy. Never have I ever cried with my student. Never have I ever cried with my student or their parent about something. Never have I ever needed a mental health day myself. Yeah, we got to take care of ourselves. Never have I ever listened to a teacher or staff member's personal situation. Never have I ever listened to their, yeah, sometimes they think we're their counselors too, right? So we're here as a school counselor for our students, but our staff has stuff, and especially right now in this pandemic. Next, never have I ever been a counselor for my principal, for my administrator, my superintendent, right? And last one, never have I ever wished it was spring break tomorrow. All right, so thank you so much for doing that with me. I hope that you see things are tough right now, and they're tough for all of us. It is a really difficult time, but we are school counselors, and we are not only trained to be able to do the work that's needed, but we also have that heart, right? We're that human being that wants to lean in and help. We want to advocate for what we know that young people need, and we want to be able to help make that difference that we know makes the difference that's needed in the lives of young people. So next, I want to tell you a little bit about my school. My school in Livingston is located in Merced County. We have TK to 8th grade. We have approximately 2,500 students, and we have a high number of students that are free and reduced lunch. And it's so high that in my district, we actually provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner to any and every student that would like it. We have a high number of English language learners. About half of our population at the middle school remain at that level, but beginning in kindergarten, that number you see there is almost doubled. So most of our students are English language learners when they enter our school system. We have about 85% of the students who are Hispanic, and about 11% who are Asian American from India. And that's kind of the makeup of our students, just so that you know, kind of as I'm speaking, what my community looks like. Okay, a little bit about our success here in Livingston. Majority of our parents feel that their students are safe, that their children are safe in our schools. We do surveys throughout the year and ask that very specific question. Most of our parents, 96%, feel welcomed and respected in our school sites, which makes us feel so good, right? This is their building, this is our building, so definitely a plus. Our attendance rate is above the state average, so we have 97% of attendance. Most of our students are here every day, which is pretty awesome. And 96.6 attendance graduation rate. Not always the case. And as I share our story, you'll learn a little bit more about the challenges that we've had and what we've done to overcome those challenges and help our community be a successful community. Okay, so Dr. Zhang wanted me to talk about advocacy, one of my favorite things, and definitely what allowed us to move forward here in Livingston. And the advocacy is a three-parter. As school counselors, we advocate for our students, we advocate for our position and all of the responsibilities that go along with that, and we advocate for the school counseling profession as a whole. So as I share my journey, you will see and hear, I hope, that we're talking about these three things. How do we advocate for our student needs? How do we advocate to do our job as school counselors in buildings across this state? And how do we advocate for the profession, for the job? So we start with the ASA National Model. Again, so heartwarming to hear that 38 schools in California are there. And I know that there are more and more schools that are going to be applying and hopefully earning RAMP designation. So the first step is to advocate in your district to use a framework that you know works. And you know it, not because you feel it, but because there's evidence out there and research behind it that suggests that it is working. And so you can look to those examples. So you probably are all familiar with the ASA National Model. The little diamond is here for you to check out. There's 4 parts to it. All are equally important and required to be able to help us achieve success. Couple of things that I want to highlight for sure is that part of the management piece of the program of the ASA National Model is to manage your program. And there is a document that's called the Annual Administrative Conference. And some of us get a little scared when we see it because it's like this contract and we have to meet with our administrator, and we have to show data, and we have to do all of these things. But the truth is we get to do this. This is the advocacy piece. Every year, every August, I sit with my principal and my colleague, and we review this document together. And we look at the data to help us identify what are important goals. And we talk data with our administrators because that's their language. So when I say to my principal, hey, I want to be able to be in the classroom because I'm going to do A, B, and C for my students, an academic lesson maybe on goal setting or GPA, a social emotional lesson, maybe suicide prevention or coping skills, and a college and career readiness lesson, maybe on A through G or the college systems. I need that time in classrooms, and that means I'm in the classroom with students instructing, right? And then I tie it into the goals that my principal has, right? They have to achieve academic levels, right? The graduation rate, maybe the decrease the DF rate, increase, students' access to A through G requirements and things like that. So this document really helps you to advocate for your position. So you tell your principal or your administrator, this is what I'm willing to do. This is what I'm able to do. This is what I know how to do. Help me make this happen. So that conference typically takes place at the start of the year and really has been an incredible tool in helping us here in Livingston do our job. So for the past 6 years, we've had 5 different principals come through, and we just show up with our administrative agreement and we're like, hey, here's what we do. And we're able to do what the ASA National Model wants us to do, which is to serve our students in an intentional, data-driven way. Second are the position statements. So understanding what is the role of the school counselor is very important, right? So you might be invited when you show up at your school, there might be an assignment for you. Oh, the other counselor that was here before you, they used to lead the SSTs. Well, if you read the ASA position statement, you know that yes, you are to be a part of the SSTs to help advocate for the needs of your students. But you're not there to be the administrator. You're not there to coordinate and schedule the meetings. You're not the note taker. There's a very important and crucial role for you as a school counselor. And so when you understand that, you also understand that you can say to your principal, yeah, I'll be there, but here's my role, right? And when you understand, you're able to articulate it, and hopefully your administrators are able to learn that. Second, the advocate for board policy. So here in Livingston, we were pretty successful early on to include language in our board policy that says that we will strive to adhere to the ASA National Model. And so as administrators came and went, we were like, hey, it's in the board policy, it says we're going to do this. So can you help me get there and make these things happen? And then you'll see some pictures here of our success. So at the top, that was 2018. That was the first one school in California that earned RAMP, and it was us. The second year, right below, you'll see 2 of the counselors, 2 of our schools earned RAMP designation in 2019. And then to the right, you'll see a little bit of a bigger team. And that was our 4th school in Livingston that earned that RAMP designation. And I think there were about 15 schools her year, which was 2020, amidst the pandemic. So pretty awesome. Next, you're going to advocate for the resources. And this one's a tough one for us as school counselors because it's advocating for human resources, personnel, and it's advocating for financial resources, money. And that's tough. I remember having a principal here a few years ago who every time I would stop by, I'd be like, oh, I need this, or I need this. And one day he said, Alma, every time you come in, you're asking me for money. And I was like, well, I'm not asking you for money, and I don't need the money. Like, my students need A, B, C. And he said, ask for resources. So I learned that. And now I go to my new principals that I've had since, and I say, hey, you know what? My students need this resource. Our school counseling program would be better with this resource, right? And I'm speaking their language, and they hear me a little bit better, because when I go in and say, hey, I need $500 for this, sometimes that could be a little tough. But there are some things here that you can see: the local control funding formula, the LCAP, local control accountability plan, that you can learn more about, that will help you to be successful in advocating for the resources that your program needs. Another resource that's important is the time that you spend with your students. And so the ASA National Model talks about 80% of your time should be in a direct service to a student, with a student, on a behalf of a student. So when you know that and accept that and speak that language and can articulate that to your administrators, that can happen, but it is advocacy that it takes. And then professional development. We've been very, very fortunate in my district that our superintendent has fully supported my team of 5 school counselors in attending the ASA National Conference, wherever it is, since they've been part of our team. So that's always something that we get full support. And what's been pretty cool is that now we even have principals and district leadership who choose to give up some of their summer to join the school counselors at this very, very incredible conference, where they can learn how to better utilize and support their school counselor. So you'll see here, it was actually in Vegas last year, and that was a hard sell, but it was incredible. And we had 3 of our 4 principals that were able to attend during their summer. Pretty awesome. We also want to advocate with data. So here you'll see just a couple of examples of some data pieces. It's important that we share that data with the different stakeholders, whether it's at a board meeting, a staff meeting, or a parent meeting, or you just push it out through social media and highlight what's being successful in the school counseling program. And at a quick glance on one of these charts, you could see there's some areas that we didn't make the best improvement with the student, and owning that and saying, okay, right here, student number 4, they came in with 7 Fs and they left with, or 6 Fs and they left with 6 Fs. Obviously, this kid needs something more. But then you'll see a lot of that red disappeared. Why? Because the program, the small group intervention, was successful. So you know what, principal? I know you need help with lunch duty, but I have these 10 kids who are struggling, and I know that if I offer this service to them, this intervention, it will make a difference. No principal has sent me to lunch duty in 15 years that I've been here. Sometimes I go on my own because I do enjoy connecting with the kids during lunchtime. But definitely taking advantage of learning about your data and sharing about your data will help to advocate for your program. Oops. Okay, advocating with stakeholders for the buy-in. So this is one of my favorite pieces of the ASA National Model, is really being able to create a school counseling advisory that's inclusive of all the important stakeholders. Students, student voice, absolutely essential. Caregivers, parents and caregivers, incredible, incredible power that they have in what they share that the needs are. Teachers, classified staff, administrators, community members, someone from the district office, and having the conversations and hearing one another, listening, thinking, okay, what can we do with what we're hearing, right? So incredible. So even during the pandemic, you'll see the photo here, logged in. We all logged in and we talked about what the goals were, what we needed, and we learned so much from our students that we were able to implement some things immediately. And then for some other things, we needed a little bit of time to plan. And we had a group already that could help us with those plans so that we weren't all alone. So definitely making sure that you advocate through the opportunities that you have when you meet with different stakeholder groups and communicate with them is very important. Also here in Livingston, one thing I take advantage of is I meet with my principal on a weekly basis. And I also meet with the assistant superintendent on a weekly basis. And it takes some time. It is a commitment. But because of those meetings, then we're able to move things together. And I find that I get a lot more support that way. And I use it as an opportunity to further educate them about the role of a school counselor. Collaborating. So also very, very important. Nobody wants to add days to their calendar, I know, but you cannot begin the school year effectively if you haven't met with your team. So here in Livingston, we actually start a few weeks, 3 to be exact, before our teachers and students step on campus. And we spend the first week going over everything that we want to try and accomplish in the year as a school counseling team. That's what we do the first week. So we sit down, we take out the calendar, we look at it, we plan, we put things on there, and we get it approved, and we move everything that we can before students and staff are on campus. The second week, we kind of hold that annual administrative conference with our administrator, and we say, hey, this is our plan. Can you sign off with us so that we can hit the ground running? And then, of course, the third week, now we're doing things like roundup, having our students come and pick up their schedules, getting ready for our staff to be here and what that might look like, the welcome for everyone. So spending time collaborating early in the year definitely allows for you to spend 80% of your time in a direct service with students and their families throughout the year. So great value in advocating for some additional days to your calendar so that you have the time that's needed to be able to plan in a way that's healthy and appropriate for your team. Okay, gonna pause there. That was all of the advocacy kind of stuff. Want to also spend a few minutes telling you about my journey as the school counselor of the year and my experience. So cannot believe that I am here in this moment representing school counselors throughout the nation. Absolutely incredibly humbled. You know, been working hard for a long time, but never had that as a goal. Just was very motivated and encouraged by all of the school counselor of the years in the past. I have all of their magazines actually. So I've been following, you know, my entire career and learning from people who are doing the best work and being recognized. And so what happened for me kind of happened during the pandemic. And it was a little funky. I received word that I was, you know, selected as a candidate. And so I needed to do my application, and the application meant that I needed to receive some letters of recommendation. And we had just closed. We closed March 19th of 2020. And here it is April, and they're like, they want some letters. And I'm like, my superintendent has better things to do. My principal has urgent things to do. Like, I cannot ask them for a letter. I can't. And then I paused and I thought, I cannot not ask, right? Livingston, my little community, could use a win. California, our giant state that's doing amazing work, could use a win. Our students could use a win. I gotta try. So I emailed my superintendent, I emailed my principal. I said, hey, I need a letter by Friday. Here's some information. Almost immediately they wrote that letter. And it was tough because it was a miss, not knowing if we're returning, not returning, things like that. But I think that they also felt like, gosh, we've got to do something here. We have something really good that's happening in our community, and let's highlight it. Let's put our name in the hat, if you will. And so I submitted and I did that. I also needed some student voice. But I did feel very uncomfortable calling my students in that moment of great uncertainty. So I opted to call and reach out to a few former students who had kept in touch with me as young adults. And I had their emails. And I said, hey, if you have a minute, if you could, you know, do me this quick favor. And I had 4 out of the 5 students that I reached out to that submitted their highlight of their middle school experience with me as a counselor and what they remember. And that was probably the biggest compliment. And so I was already a winner. I knew it. My students out loud told me how I helped them. And that was just amazing to be able to hear and experience. And then I just forgot about it because the pandemic, and we were trying to, secure toilet paper, right? And we were trying to, make sure that we knew what to try and do. And then we really couldn't go to the store, and all that was happening. So that kind of happened for me. Then we returned to the building, and then I did get word that I was, one of the finalists. And so this was now an invitation to go to Washington, D.C. to have an interview. And I had not traveled, like many of you, in quite a long time. And so I paused and thought, oh, I don't know. Am I ready? Am I ready to get on a plane? I don't know. But I thought, well, I now have the vaccine. I'm doing the best that I can. I got to try. I have to try. This is bigger than just me. This is an opportunity to highlight our profession and to learn from people who are doing amazing work. So I went down, I did do the interview. It was amazing. I came back, had no idea that I had been selected. My district did an amazing job putting a beautiful ceremony together for me here at school. My parents were invited and included to be present with me as that announcement was made. And then we all traveled in February to Washington, D.C. To be part of kind of the events that were there. So there is a little Flickr photo album that you're welcome to check out. It was an amazing experience. Someone from, the 209 in California representing on that national stage was an incredible honor. Then I want to share this photo because this happened while I was there. I was invited to be able to facilitate a fireside chat with the Secretary of Education, Miguel Cardona, and with the Attorney General, Dr. Murthy. And I don't know, you guys, I didn't think I would be able to, but I leaned in and I said, yes, I'll do it. And I was really pretty nervous. But once we started, I realized that the expert about school counseling and what our students needed was myself and my colleagues. So the room was filled with incredibly talented educators who are doing the work. And it was a safe space. And so, yes, these two men with some titles and at the, on TV often and representing us in big ways, they were these two people that were leaning in saying, hey, we also want to help. And they did. And they encouraged us. And they said, hey, there's money, the American Rescue Plan. Go to your governor, go to your representatives, talk about this. Don't be afraid to use your voice and lend your expertise to some of us that aren't the practitioners. So they gave us some incredible permission. And this moment is one that I'll never forget because I can't even believe the little girl from Lathrop, right, had a moment to share alongside of these two people that are making a difference in our communities and trying to. I want to be a part of that team that tries. Remember, John F. Kennedy said, everyone should try. I'm on that team. So I was incredibly honored to have this moment. That sums up kind of my presentation to you, but I definitely want to be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much for just sharing your story with us. As folks are posting questions in chat, I think something I hear from folks is that, you talk about doing a comprehensive program, especially in Livingston and 209 and the representation that you provide there. And folks say, well, we can't do comprehensive counseling programs in the rural communities. How would you respond to that kind of statement? because you're doing it, and you're doing it multiple times over in all the schools in Livingston.
Yeah, that's a great question, Dr. Zhang. And I know we didn't think so. My colleague, when I first started in Livingston, I was one of 2 counselors. And when I applied for the job, they said, you're going to go to all 4 schools. And I was like, that's 2,500 students. Like, how am I going to be able to do something, And I graduated from college before the ASA National Model was finalized. So I didn't even know about it. So I found myself going to schools trying to, I was like a Band-Aid approach. I'd show up at one school and here were the 5 kids that their teacher spoke the loudest, and they made it to the principal's office. And there I was trying to help that. Then I'd go to another site and that principal would always feel sad about all the sad things that happen for kids. And so I got all the depressed kids, right? Or sad thing kids. And it was inconsistent and it was difficult. And I didn't feel like I was getting a whole lot of wins. I felt like I was putting a Band-Aid and then I was like, I'll be back next week, right? I had kids refusing to go to school and I could help them on Thursday when I was there, but then I couldn't help them the rest of the week, right? It was really very frustrating and difficult. So it is hard. But what I also realized when I said, hey, I advocated to go to this conference because I didn't know what I was doing. And I learned about the ASA National Model. And there was this tool that told me what I needed to do and helped guide me. So once you know about this tool, you absolutely realize the value in the tool. You can't not do a comprehensive program because otherwise you're just trying to put out a fire. And as a school counselor, I didn't sign up to be the firefighter, right? Like I am not somebody who wants to be running all the time. No, I want to be intentional about the service that I'm providing. And I want to reflect on, is it working, right? And so the model invites you to look at the data and see, is this working for my students? And not be afraid of it. There's some things that don't work. Why am I wasting my time? I want to know right away, hey, that didn't work. Let me either tweak it if I think it could work a different way, or let me let go of it and find out from others through collaboration what is working in other rural communities. And so we created here in Livingston a network community. We started where it would only be the 5 of us. We were the only ones who were showing up. Silver lining in the pandemic, we learned about Zoom. We went virtual. We just held a meeting on Monday. We had over 30 counselors from rural areas, many from our area, but I actually have a few people from Southern California rural communities that log in. Had somebody from Tennessee who emailed me and she said, I'm the only Latina counselor in my state, in my area. Like, I need to connect with some people. And she joins us. And we've been sharing ideas and learning. So it can be difficult when you're one counselor. It can be difficult when you're in a rural community. It can be difficult when you're in a suburban community, right? We can find the challenges anywhere we go. But when there is a tool that allows us to reflect on the practices, it makes sense to use that tool.
Thank you, Alma. It's just your belief system and you're just constantly learning and growing and evaluating and assessing and reaching out is just phenomenal and inspiring.
Thank you.
I have a question in the chat from Jacqueline. She says, thank you for your work. I went to school in Delhi District. Your story is inspiring. What would you tell your young school counselor self, knowing where you are today?
That's a good one. I would tell myself that it is all going to be okay. When I first started and that was the ratio, I couldn't believe that, right? I was like, how is one counselor going to be able to do this work? But when you're intentional about your practice and when you build the relationships and when people value your reputation, everything else can happen. So in 2015, when the LCAP entered here in California, my superintendent invited me to the conversation. And initially the conversation was about hiring a mental health clinician because that was the hot term at that time. And so I said, oh, well, that would be great. But a mental health clinician could maybe service 40 kids. Let me tell you what a school counselor can do, because we offer counseling instruction. We offer tier 2 small group interventions. We know how to reach out to the community for those additional resources that are needed. And look at the little bit that's happened in our community. And in that moment, we changed the job description from mental health clinician, which are important to have in schools as well. Not saying they're not, but in our community first, it made more sense to have a school counselor who could intentionally service all students first. Then we need to build those other PPS providers into every school in California. Absolutely believe it, right? There's a team of 5 professionals that are needed kind of with that PPS credentialing that is so essential.
Alma. Chris, your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Zhang. Alma, thank you very much for your presentation. Thank you for taking us through your journey and the theory of happenstance. I learned it last year, and you know, most of us came from like underrepresented, or some of us don't have the resources, but sometimes it happens then just like how the environment dictate how it turns out. So I am a true believer in happenstance. So I took a chance and get the opportunity that presented to me. So thank you very much. I can resonate to that happenstance theory and how it takes you through DC and represent your school district and advocating for your students. So thank you very much. It was I feel empowered.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yes, it does happen to many of us. And there are some success stories, right? And so there is hope, and that feels good. We could do better, right? Once we know what's needed, we absolutely can help it not be happenstance for the majority of our kids. We can be intentional with our work because everyone should have that opportunity. So thank you for your kind words.
I see another question in the chat, and we have just a few more minutes, so we may just have time for this one and maybe one more. So it says, Aurora says, thank you so much for your work. As a Latina first-generation college student in grad school, I have gone through the struggle to be where I am, and it's people that look like me that inspire me, that I can reach more than I can think. And I was wondering, what helped you gather the determination to keep moving forward throughout your career journey and develop your counselor identity?
Yeah, so I've been reflecting on that, right? Because for me, growing up, you know, I did not have those people that necessarily looked like me. And I remember going to college and having a sociology professor, Dr. Palacio, who did an activity with us where we filled a cup, and it was just a cup and a bunch of colored beads, and the colored beads represented different ethnicities. And so he said, you know, put the color of your kindergarten teacher in a cup, and put the color of the cashier at the store, and put the color of your, you know, doctor, and put the color of, and he took us to like 15 professionals. And I looked at my cup and it shocked me. My cup was white. And at a certain point, I realized it was this race thing. So I was trying really hard to find a color, you know, and there's maybe a speck or two, but it was white. And I remember reflecting on that, realizing there's nothing I could do about what my cup looked like then, but my cup could absolutely look different now. So I signed up for hip hop classes. I don't know how to do them, but I did. I signed up for country line dancing. I signed up for, you know, the aging community workshops, 1-unit classes that were available. I signed up for and went to the Chinese New Year in the communities that surrounded me, and up in San Francisco, absolutely amazing. And I started to just do things that for a moment took me a little bit outside that comfort zone. But oh my gosh, what did I learn? And every time I travel now, I look for those cultural events and activities that are happening to help me change what my cup looks like, right? So that I can learn and grow from other people, so that then as I'm interacting with my students, I'm able to connect with them on a different level. And they don't need to all look like me. And my counselor didn't have to look like me, right? We're not going to look like everyone in our school building, but we can and should try to understand and connect with them culturally and learn about them and their communities, and know that it's okay to ask, hey, I don't know what Dolly Wall is about, right? That's in my community. I need to know about that. And I need to show up and show that I care about the experiences that my students are going through and living, right? So absolutely a great question. And my tip to you is reflect on who's in your cup, and then think about what can you do now to add some color specks, right? Different colors into that cup to enrich your own experience. Like, I am incredibly awed at the amazing things that happen all across this world, right? It's awesome, but I didn't know those things before. So you can take ownership over that. Yes.
Wonderful. So we have our last question, and it's from Salama Luna, who is a graduate from the Sac State program. And she says, thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your story with us. You're an inspiration. What is your biggest piece of advice for us who are in our first year as a counselor?
Okay, great question. Connect, whether it's with your professor or a current counselor. Learn from the experiences that are happening. Right now is an incredibly amazing time to be a school counselor, because not only are we needed, which we've always been needed, but now people know it. So they're welcoming and they're curious and they want to know. So people come up to me all the time with all these titles behind their name, my principal, my superintendent, right? All the way on up the Board of Education. And they're like, well, I'm not the expert you are. And I was like, I'm just a school counselor. And I've had to learn to say, I'm not just a school counselor. You're right. I am the expert. So let me tell you what we need. And let me tell you based on the data, right? And the data is two ways. One, as school counselors, we love the qualitative data, right? The stories. And the stories matter and they hit people's heart. But the data talks, the quantitative. So you got to try and understand it. So even though you might sit in your class coming soon on data, and it might be hard because there's numbers and that's not our world so much, own it, know that it's important that you understand it, work to get the best grades you can in that class so that you can understand it, so that you can articulate both quantitatively and qualitatively about what's needed in your communities as you go out and begin working.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your time and your energy with us. You've shared so many wonderful aspects of your journey, connecting that to advocacy, your just continuous commitment to grow and learn. So we want to thank you. And what I like everybody to do, let's just do a flash video and thank Alma for her time and energy. And thank you everyone for being here today.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you.